各位傳媒朋友早晨，多謝大家今朝嚟呢個記者會。行政長官會先同大家發言，之後會接受大家嘅提問嘅。我哋而家先請行政長官發言。
各位傳媒朋友，各位香港市民，早晨。2個禮拜前9月1日咧，我喺呢度嘅檢測中心聯同司局長同埋行政會議嘅成員呢，係接受咗呢個普及社區檢測嘅採樣。時間過得好快，呢個歷時14天嘅普及社區檢測計劃呢，喺昨晚就順利完成，一共係錄得1783000位市民呢係參與呢個自願嘅檢測。正如好多參與咗嘅市民表示啦，參與呢個自願檢測係令到佢哋自己安心，亦都可以保障到佢哋嘅屋企人、朋友同埋係同事嘅健康。我想喺呢度加多一句呢，就係每一位參與檢測嘅市民，其實都係為今次嘅抗疫工作出咗一分力嘅。今次咁大規模嘅檢測工作能夠由籌備到完成，係短短喺1個月之內呢，係實在要感謝好多嘅人士。首先我想感謝呢係6000多名醫護嘅人員響應我哋嘅號召，參加呢個計劃，喺各個檢測中心呢，為市民好專業、好安全咁進行呢個採樣嘅步驟。亦都要多謝超過4000名嘅公務員同埋退休嘅公務員喺各個社區嘅檢測中心裏邊呢做支援嘅工作。大家唔好睇少呢啲支援嘅工作，因為我哋喺進行社區檢測嘅期間呢，仍然係有一啲嘅禁止嘅聚集啦。咁所以點樣能夠好安全、好有序，唔會出現有大型嘅聚集啊，或者係嚴重嘅排隊呢，都係呢啲喺社區檢測中心負責支援工作嘅同事呢，每日係需要處理嘅，令到個流程係順暢。我好高興聽到呢市民對於喺檢測中心嗰個嘅親身嘅體驗，雖然往往都係歷時幾分鐘，但係大家都係覺得好專業啦，好啲人員係好有禮貌啦，效率好高啦。尤其是喺個採樣嘅過程呢，並不如早前有人嚇佢哋呢話好痛啊，或者係會受到感染嘅。我亦都要多謝好多協助我哋公開呼籲嘅社會人士嚇，咁包括有專業人士啦，包括有演藝界嘅朋友啦，以至到各個社會嘅領袖。第二方面需要感謝呢係負責保安同埋物流嘅人員，特別係物流及供應鏈多元技術研發中心 LSCM 嘅同仁，佢哋早前已經參加咗抗疫工作嘅呢個監察嘅手鏈嘅設計同埋製造，要準時無誤咁將超過100個社區檢測中心嘅樣本送到去火眼實驗室呢，係一件相當艱巨嘅工作。咁喺呢度對佢哋表示深切嘅謝意。但最重要嘅係要感謝中央政府對我哋嘅支援，喺短時間裏邊呢，喺香港可以提升到呢個檢測嘅能力，因為每一日要做10多萬，甚至有一日接近20萬嘅檢測，係今次計劃嘅關鍵。如果香港冇喺短時間裏邊得到中央支援，有呢個病毒檢測嘅能力呢，剛才所講嘅工作呢，都係冇辦法有成效嘅。而事實上，我可以喺呢度同大家講呢，今次支援香港抗疫工作係得到中央領導人嘅高度重視，係由國務院港澳辦全面嚟到去協調。就以檢測工作為例呢，係由國家嘅衛生及健康委員會負責統籌同埋動員570多位嚟自廣東、福建、廣西嘅檢測嘅人員啦，組成呢啲核酸檢測支援隊，分批由8月初開始咧就係嚟到香港。呢班朋友咧喺過去2個禮拜，聯同香港實驗室嘅人員喺氣膜嘅實驗室，可以講咧係非常刻苦咁工作，係日以繼夜。有好多日咧都係24小時嚟到2班咁工作，完成咗任務。係令到香港人非常之感動，所以近日大家都見到好多市民團體都係自發向支援隊咧係表示佢哋嘅感謝。 事實上，背後令到呢一次中央支援香港抗疫工作成功嘅呢，仲有好多嘅中央嘅部委，咁係包括國家發展同埋改革委員會啦、工業和信息化部、財政部、國務院新聞辦公室、海關總署，當然亦都包括喺香港嘅中聯辦。喺呢度我一併呢係多謝咁多嘅部委為我哋做咗嘅工作。我知道大家對於呢個普及社區檢測計劃嘅成效啦、後續嘅工作同埋經費都會有一啲提問，所以今日下午我會聯同相關嘅司局長召開一個記者招待會，向大家作進一步嘅交代。因為到呢一刻呢，所有嘅檢測工作都仲爭少少先會完成嘅，咁所以希望今日下午呢可以同大家全面交代，經過今次嘅普及社區檢測，一共係識別咗幾多位確診嘅人士。下午嘅記者招待會呢，仲有兩個嘅目的嘅，就係公布下一階段嘅社交距離措施。換句話說，喺今個月即係18日起，究竟香港要採取邊一啲嘅社區嘅距離嘅措施啦？另一個工作呢，係向大家公布防疫抗疫基金第3輪嘅內容。提到防疫抗疫基金嘅第3輪呢，我都想講幾句呢，關於防疫抗疫基金嘅第1輪同埋第2輪，大部分嘅工作呢都係順利展開咗，尤其是有一啲項目，佢唔會隨住第2期嘅或者係申請完結呢，佢就唔再存在嘅。譬如啱啱係星期日截止嘅保就業計劃嘅第2期呢，佢其實涵蓋嘅工資補貼呢，係去到今年嘅11月底嚇。因為當日我哋設計呢個計劃呢，都知道可能呢個疫情呢唔會咁快消失啦，而疫情過後經濟復甦呢都有一段時間。咁所以當大家今日下晝聽到我哋講有關於防疫抗疫基金第3輪嘅內容，希望大家都留意呢，其實有啲第2輪嘅項目呢，仍然喺度進行緊嘅。至於喺保就業第2期收到嘅申請，我留意到今日都有一啲報道我想講講呢，我哋今次第2期所有申請嚟自僱主呢，係比上一輪係少嘅，係158,000多宗大概係比第1期嘅所有申請嘅數目呢係少咗6%。但係由於保就業計劃當時第一次推出啦，可能有一啲根本不符合資格嘅僱主呢都係有申請，咁所以比較準確呢，應該睇喺第1期保就業計劃裏邊最終獲得批准攞呢個工資補貼。咁當時嘅總體嘅數目呢係150,145名嘅僱主。咁但係相對於喺剛才講嘅158,000多裏邊嘅原本喺第1期有申請呢，的確係少咗。我哋頭先講咗啦，我分析呢158,000多嘅第2期所有僱主申請呢，曾經喺第1期裏邊獲批資助嘅僱主大概係142,800多份，咁所以呢係少咗嘅。第1期攞咗申請，而喺第2期冇提出申請呢，大概係少咗7,200宗度咁但係而家就言之過早，究竟係咪大家好有悲觀啦？係諗住可能要結業而唔提出呢個申請，因為提出申請獲批之後呢，佢係要承諾不裁員嘅。咁同埋呢7,000幾位嘅僱主，佢嘅聘用嘅人數規模呢，而家我哋都唔掌握。咁但係我都要求負責保就業計劃嘅同事呢，要加快呢一期嘅審批。一方面呢，令到工資補貼可以早一啲去到有需要嘅僱主手上啦；另一方面，亦都可以俾我哋更加好掌握而家目前香港呢個整體受疫情影響嘅經濟同埋就業情況。睇下大家有咩問題，因為下晝有個詳細嘅記者會呢，我今日只會簡單回應1、2條題目。
提問時間，請希望提問嘅記者先舉手啦，嗌到之後呢，用咪發問嘅。右手邊靠中間嗰位男記者。
你好阿林太 Now TV 嘅，想問翻呢就係12個仍然喺內地嘅港人啦。咁之前家屬都有講過，佢哋指派嘅律師唔俾見面啊，只可以派官辦律師啦。同埋有啲被拘留嘅人係可能擔心佢冇藥食啦。咁想問翻，其實究竟特區政府喺呢 起碼呢兩方面咧，譬如駐粵辦又好，警方又好，究竟做咗啲乜嘢，或者你哋有咩角色去幫到啲港人啦？第二就係尋日外交部嘅發言人話春瑩話佢哋12個人係涉嫌分裂國家啦。咁以你嘅理解或者特區政府嘅理解，佢係咪有冇暗指到其實佢12個人可能會係被內地嘅國安法起訴，定係仍然都係會用翻香港嘅國安法嚟處理咧？其中一個人。咁第三個問題就係留意翻尋日保安局發俾陸委會嗰個聲明，就係話叫台灣唔好窩藏罪犯，盡快將佢哋翻香港。咁點解對住台灣就會用呢一個講法，但係對住大陸就話要尊重其他司法區不便評論呢？唔該。
三條題目都係圍繞住相近嘅議題啦嚇，我簡單講講。第一呢，就係關於有12位香港嘅居民被拘留喺內地。我希望大家要認清楚呢件事件嘅本質。呢件事件嘅本質呢，係有12位香港嘅居民係涉嫌非法入境內地，係犯咗內地嘅偷越國境或者偷越邊境罪，所以係被內地嘅執法機構咧係拘留嘅。咁所以顯而易見咧，呢個案件係屬於內地司法管轄區嘅範圍。咁所以由內地機關依法，亦都係依內地法啦，當然嚟到處理咧係非常之恰當，亦都唔應該有另外一個方法嚇。正如果喺香港發生嘅罪行咧，我哋都係堅持由香港嘅執法機關同埋由司法嘅機關咧嚟到處理。如果我哋再係客觀去深究點解呢12個人呢會係以不合法嘅途徑咧離開香港，咁啊事件嘅本質就應該更加清楚啦。我簡單複述我哋已經公布咗嘅資料啦。喺呢12個人裏邊，只有一個人呢係涉嫌違反香港嘅國安法，當然亦都有違反其他嘅刑事罪行，包括無牌管有彈藥啦。而家係保釋候查嘅。另外一個人呢係涉嫌製造或者藏有爆炸品，但係呢，我哋係未有拘捕到佢，佢已經係唔見咗，所以而家係被警方呢係通緝嘅。最後嗰10位人呢係涉嫌係一系列嚴重嘅刑事罪行，包括製造同埋管有爆炸品啦、縱火啦、暴力事件啦、傷人啦、襲警，咁佢哋都係保釋候查。咁所謂講緊嘅12名人士呢，都係喺應該候查或者候審嘅期間呢係潛逃離開咗香港嚇，係而家呢全部都應該係被警方呢係通緝緊㗎啦嚇。咁所以離港出走嘅原因睇嚟呢就係逃避呢個法律嘅責任。我點解要講事件嘅本質呢？就因為係要以正視聽，因為有一啲本地或者係外國嘅人士呢，都嘗試去轉移視線，就形容呢係一啲民主嘅人士受到鎮壓啊，諸如此類，亦都係有意無意呢，就係描繪到好似12個人呢都同國安法有關。我剛才講咗啦，只係有1名人士呢係涉嫌違反香港嘅國安法嘅。嗱，剛才你問到有啲嘅好似看似你認為有分別，我喺呢度可以好斬釘截鐵講呢係冇分別嘅，都係一視同仁。特區政府喺處理跨境嘅犯罪嘅原則呢都係一致嘅。咁啊，包括以下幾樣原則啦。第一就係每一個人都要為自己嘅行為負責。咁如果佢進入咗另一個司法管轄區，犯咗當地嘅法律，咁當然要受到當地嘅執法嘅機構嘅調查，同埋受到當地嘅法律嘅制裁。第二就係每一個司法管轄區，香港本身係一個司法管轄區啦，我哋都係按住法律嚟到處理一啲違法行為，呢個係公認嘅基本法律嘅原則。咁所以互相尊重呢，無論喺國際上或者喺我哋嘅跨境嘅處理犯罪案件呢，都係應該獲得正視同埋重視嘅。第三呢，就係任何香港人喺境外涉嫌違法，無論佢嘅背景係乜嘢呢，特區政府都會係按住實際情況，喺尊重當地嘅司法制度嘅原則之下，為呢啲嘅香港居民呢提供可行嘅協助，係唔會有雙重嘅標準。但係我哋睇到可能社會上某啲人士咧，就對於呢兩批嘅人士咧，可能係有啲嘅雙重嘅標準啦。對於12位人士，特區政府提供咗嘅協助，我哋已經喺昨天 嘅一啲公佈裏邊咧係講得清楚。我喺呢度可以講咧，特區政府一如既往咧會繼續積極咁去跟進呢件事，留意事態嘅發展，同埋按需要透過我哋嘅入境處同埋我哋嘅駐粵辦咧係提供所需嘅協助。但對於報傳另外嗰5位咧，事實而家個情況係咁樣嘅。我哋對於報傳即係報導轉述話有5位香港人士潛逃台灣咧，而家係冇資料亦都冇收到家屬求助，亦都冇收到台灣嘅信息。呢個有別於同內地，內地同香港咧係喺2018年。當時係我見證咧，簽訂咗一個通報嘅機制，喺某啲情況之下受到強制拘留咧，係需要通報俾特區政府嘅。咁但係我哋冇收到任何嚟自台灣嘅信息。警方已經係向台灣查詢，但係到今日為止因為查詢都應該係昨天先至進行嘅，今日為止咧，我哋冇收到係台灣方面嘅任何嘅回覆。作為特區政府嘅首長咧，我嘅工作咧都係按住法律、按住原則、按住維護香港人嘅利益咧嚟到去做嚇，咁所以並不存在有唔同嘅立場啦。
下一條問題，左手邊呢位藍色衫呢位記者。
Hi, TMHK. So, Mrs. Lam, the 12 detainees in Shenzhen have not been able to contact their families for more than 3 weeks now, and the chosen lawyers have not been allowed to visit them. How confident are you that their legal rights will be protected on the mainland, and what will the government do to help them? And also, the spokesman of the Foreign Ministry called the detainees elements of separatism. What do you make of his statement, and do you think that's appropriate when the 12 have not even faced trial? And will the detainees face national security charges on the mainland? And thirdly, about the mass testing program, what do you make of the fact that 3/4 of the population did not take part in the mass testing, despite the government's repeated calls for participation? Does this show that there's a widespread public mistrust in the government? And would you consider the program successful or unsuccessful, given that only 32 people, about 1.8 million people, have been tested positive? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that question. If I may just briefly recap. The Hong Kong SAR government adhered to key principles in dealing with cross-border or cross-boundary crimes. And the first principle is every individual, every Hong Kong resident has to accept their own responsibility. If they go into another jurisdiction and breach the law, and in this case, they were suspected to have illegally entered the mainland, then they have to accept the legal liabilities. So when you use the term legal rights, yes, every person should have their legal rights by law, but they should also accept their legal liabilities. The second principle is a well-recognized legal principle around the world, that each jurisdiction shall handle any illegal acts in accordance with its laws. So since these suspected offenders are caught in the mainland, for breaching a mainland law, then of course they will be subject to the mainland jurisdiction and the law enforcement rules thereat. But the third principle is no matter what, regardless of his or her background, the Hong Kong SAR government will provide the needed and feasible assistance to every individual, every Hong Kong resident who is suspected of breaching the law outside Hong Kong. And we are following this principle by contacting the relatives of the arrested and providing the needed assistance through our immigration department as well as our Guangdong Economic and Trade Office. And we will continue to do so. But as I said, we will do so in accordance with our law and also in full respect of the legal system in another jurisdiction. About the testing program, about the comment. I do not wish to comment on individuals' comments because there are so many comments about Hong Kong these days, even when I was named by the Secretary of State in the United States. So there's no particular value in commenting on others' comments unless it is something of a very important matter that we need to refute or respond to. As far as the crimes that have been suspected of making by the 12, I've made it very clear, and I will repeat it briefly here. Of the 12 suspected persons who have now been detained in the mainland, only one has allegedly committed an offense under the national security law. The other 11 have committed crimes under the criminal ordinance, and they are very serious crimes of arson, possession of explosives, making of explosives, and so on. So the government will have to take this very seriously in following up the case after these cases have been handled in the mainland according to the mainland laws. About the Universal Community Test Program. Well, first of all, this is a voluntary program which was intended to give the Hong Kong people a chance to go through a test. And to have 1.78 million Hong Kong people voluntarily took part in a massive testing program is a very good result. Originally, we aimed at achieving, I would say, two objectives. One is to identify what we call the silent transmitters, especially the asymptomatic cases, because they did not have symptoms, so they would not go forward to see a doctor, and there's no way to tell that they have been infected. So our first objective is to identify these asymptomatic infected people, and the program has achieved that purpose. The second objective is to enable the government and the community at large to have a better understanding of the infection situation in Hong Kong. When we first announced the scheme, we were very worried that there could be a large number, and this would affect our policy making, for example, in relaxation of social distancing measures. But now, with a relatively low rate, I think the rate is perhaps 2 cases per 10,000 or 100,000 situation, that provides a very good epidemiological picture of what is happening in Hong Kong. Now, I would add to those 2 original objectives other values that have come out of this universal community testing program. One is it has raised the awareness of Hong Kong people in combating this epidemic, which is unlikely to go away for another period until an effective vaccine is available and supplied to the community at large. So it is very important for ordinary citizens to keep on reminding themselves that it is very important to wear the mask, very important to keep social distance, to avoid crowds, and so on. So every of the 1.78 million Hong Kong residents, now I feel they will have a better awareness. The second value that has come out of it is they have personally gone through this COVID-19 testing. Because you remember when we started to launch this program, there were a lot of smearing, bad-mouthing about the COVID-19 test, about the possible infections, and this and that. So people could have fear and anxiety about subjecting themselves to a COVID-19 test. Now, they have gone through it themselves, together with their family members. And the great majority of reaction that I have heard is, well, it is very simple, it is very safe, it doesn't hurt me at all. So next time, when there is going to be another outbreak, whether in an elderly home, whether in a public housing estate, that the public health authorities has to go into sort of more compulsory type of COVID-19 testing. At least the people affected will not have that same fear and anxiety. And this is a very valuable experience for such a large number of people. And finally, Hong Kong is a very polarized society, unfortunately, because of events that have taken place in the last year or so. But in the last 2 weeks, we have seen people coming together. 6,000 medical, nursing, and allied health and first aid staff have come together to join hands at the testing center. they may not know each other previously, but they joined hands to conduct this program for one single purpose, that is to protect the health of the Hong Kong people. And this medical, nursing, and first aid network is extremely important for us to go through the next stage of this anti-epidemic work. And I hope the whole exercise has also injected a certain degree of positive spirit, which is so lacking in Hong Kong society for a while. So we will evaluate and conclude our experience in this program and set the way forward. This afternoon, I will host a press conference together with the relevant principal officials, and we will love to give you more details on that occasion. Thank you very much. 多謝大家。